A seventh ever North Korean nuclear test is possible at any time. The South Korean President Yoon-Suk-yeol declared Tuesday that the North's completed all preparations to conduct such a test, while repeating an offer of support in exchange for denuclearization. And Yoon's comments are backed by the United States, where a State Department spokesperson repeated Washington's concern about a North Korean nuclear test and insisted the US is preparing for all contingencies with South Korea and other allies. To consider what happens next, it would be good to remind ourselves what happened in the past. In October 2006, there was a tremor on the Korean peninsula. North Korea announced it had conducted its first nuclear test at the same Punggye-ri site where all its subsequent tests have taken place. This test was relatively small, with an explosive yield of only around 1 kiloton, but it caused global concern after years of diplomatic efforts to ensure a nuclear-free Korean peninsula, and the US quickly pressed for punitive measures before the United Nations agreed to impose sanctions. Nearly 3 years later, May 2009, there was a slightly bigger tremor and a second North Korean nuclear test, estimated to have produced an explosion of 2 kilotons. The UN responded again with tougher sanctions, as most arms exports to North Korea were prohibited. By the time of the North's third nuclear test in February 2013, Kim Jong-un had succeeded his father as leader. There was speculation that he needed to prove himself and establish firm military control. He responded with a bigger nuclear test, perhaps up to 7 kilotons. At this point, the US decided not to push for further sanctions. In January 2016, North Korea's fourth nuclear test reached around 10 kilotons and was described by leader Kim as a successful experiment involving a miniaturized hydrogen bomb. It triggered a different approach to punishment, as the US passed a law allowing sanctions against individuals trading with North Korea, while the North was also banned by the UN from testing ballistic missiles from this point. North Korea's fifth nuclear test in September 2016 produced an explosion of up to 25 times the size of its first test a decade earlier, with Kim Jong-un saying this was a test of a warhead designed to be mounted onto a rocket. In response, the US focused on closing sanction loopholes, while the UN agreed to stop North Korea's imports of coal, a vital source of energy. And now we get to North Korea's most recent test in September 2017, by far its most powerful and apparently involving a hydrogen bomb. South Korean officials initially placed the test's explosion at 100 kilotons, while other estimates were even higher. The political fallout was significant, with much of the world reporting concerns of an imminent war as Kim Jong-un and then US President Donald Trump traded aggressive threats. But then, an unprecedented period of diplomacy raised genuine hopes for lasting peace. Following years of dialogue stalemate, here we are, expecting a return to North Korean nuclear testing. History also tells us there are limited options given the sanctions already in place, and the North may feel more emboldened than ever given the new Cold War atmosphere affecting Russia and China. Now that China's wrapped up its latest Communist Party Congress, the North may feel free to go ahead with a seventh nuclear test, and it will be up to Seoul, Washington, and the wider world to be creative with their response.